Welcome to episode 372 of the Derek Diamond Experience podcast, where every week I talk about the inner workings of the entertainment industry with those who have lived it and experienced it. I'm your host, Derek Diamond, and I'm excited about today's episode because, every now and then I get these interviews that you never really expect, but once you get them, you just have such a great time, conversing and learning about, said person or person's career. And that's no exception with this week's episode. I had the pleasure of chatting with actor Vince Lozano, and he's been in quite a few notable films throughout his career. And what's really fascinating is that he went from playing sports to becoming an actor. And he made his film debut in Encino Man, which I know is a cult classic, but I actually saw for the first time about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than that. And then he was also in Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp and other notable stars. So we got to talk in depth about, really the impact that movie has had in pop culture. Because I can remember that movie being, a huge generational hit when it came out back in the early 2000s. So it was great getting to talk with Vince about his career, and hopefully you enjoy hearing it. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Vince Lozano. Happy to be here with my special guest this week, actor Vince Lozano. Vince, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How about you?
Doing good. And I appreciate you, taking the time out of your schedule to chat with me, about your career and one of your upcoming projects.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So I always like to start off these conversations at the beginning because I say ad nauseum on the show that there's not really a how-to guidebook on how to get into acting, directing, or whatever it is in the industry you want to do. Everybody kind of forges their own path. So how did you ultimately become an actor?
Well, it's interesting because I've been getting that question quite a bit. And, I thought I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. I thought I was going to be a superstar. And I realized when I was in college that wasn't going to happen, playing at a Division III school. And I was like, I need to find something else. But before that, I was I went to Brooklyn for the summer to visit my family, and my cousins were into breakdancing, and so was hanging out with them, and they taught me how to breakdance. Usually, we're playing sports, but I didn't want to be left out, so I was like, all right, I'll try this breakdancing thing, and I realized that it was going to lead me into joining a group in Cleveland, which we became very popular. We were performing at small clubs. We did the halftime show for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We opened up for Run DMC, Fat Boys, Curtis Blow, Nucleus. We did like a small little tour to Columbus, Cincinnati, and Detroit, and got to meet Run DMC. And I was like, man, these guys look old. Not realizing that they were only 19 and 20 at the time. I thought they were in their 30s. So so learning how to dance and being athletic, I got into there was a play happening out in Caramel House. It's in the east side of Cleveland. It's an African American theater, and they were looking for a Caucasian kid that could play basketball, dance, act, and sing. Well, I could definitely dance. I could definitely play basketball. I was a very, very good athlete. I'm sorry, my wife is getting in the car in here.
No worries.
And my son, you go ahead, get in. So, so someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, they're looking for this kid. Are you interested in auditioning?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I never done it before." So I did. I auditioned. They're like, "Well, you can't sing, obviously." I was a terrible singer, but they were like, "We'll turn it into rap," and I could rap. So and the role was totally me. So I ended up getting the lead in a show my first time out, and that kind of segued me into doing more theater, doing more acting in Cleveland, getting leads in shows, and I was like, huh, maybe I should take my shot, and I did, and here we are now.
That's awesome. No, I gotta ask because I worked in minor league baseball for 8 years. What position did you play in baseball?
I I play second and short.
Okay, that's cool. That's real
I
cool.
was a better second baseman than shortstop.
So I have to ask because my about a year, maybe a little bit longer than that, my wife introduced me to a little known movie called Encino Man, which you were a part of. What was
Right.
it like making that? Because I feel like it's it has its following, as far as like those cool '90s movies go. So, what was your experience like making that?
Well, I got a couple funny stories with that because I got to share it with you because I was doing a play called Thanksgiving Cries at the time. Marco Del Rios was in it, Toby Maguire, Eric Close, Danny Nucci. I don't know if you know all those names, but Danny Nucci was in Titanic, Eric Close Without a Trace. But anyway, I come to the callback for Encino Man, and I do it. I'm running out, going. It was around Thanksgiving time, and my mom was visiting. I was leaving. They come running after. Hey, Vince, come back. We want you to audition with Mark, who we were doing a play together. So we go in the room. We're dancing, improvising, laughing, this and that. Next thing you know, I get the role. Here we are 30 years later. Mark there was one of my best men in my wedding, and he's the one of my godfathers to my son. He played my partner in Encino Man. You know what? That was my first movie. Uh, I was just there at that college, not realizing that's where we filmed because I completely forgot. I'm looking around because I was picking up my niece from college. I'm looking around. This place looks familiar. I'm like, have been here before? And I'm like, wait a minute. This is where we shot Encino Man at Mission College out in Sylmar. Not knowing, not realizing. But you know what? It was such a great experience. So much fun. Brandon Fraser just won an Oscar, and I can't remember the other actor's name, but he won an Oscar, and I had a scene with both of them. So who would have thought 30 years later, you know, they would win Oscars, and here we are. I'm still working as an actor, and Pauly Shore was so funny. Sean Astin, Brandon Fraser, Lee Mayfield was the director, and and especially being that one of my friends uh was part of the movie too. We were partners on it. It was a great experience.
And it shows you never know like what direction life can take you. Like you mentioned with your friend being, the godfather of your kids, being one of the best men at your wedding. You just never know what little event's going to happen that kind of spawns that off.
And that's what's so great about being an actor, because you're in the trenches, regardless if you're doing theater or film, and you create this bond because, I like to say you're going to war. It's not really going to war, but you're going to battle, to rise to the occasion. And that's how you create these friendships because they know what you're going through. And I've been fortunate to make a lot of great friends working in this business.
Absolutely. Of course, I've got to ask about Pirates of the Caribbean. I was junior in high school when this movie came out, and I remember
Get out of
going, oh,
here, Junior.
I,
Wow, now I feel old.
people make me feel old every day now, so I totally feel your pain. But I remember going to that movie opening day, and this is before you could do like reserved seating and all that. So you had to get to the theater as soon as you could. And I had
Right.
to sit in the third row because of how packed the movie was. So when you were a part of that, like as you guys were making the movie, did you ever think that it would become this, like generational phenomenon?
I love to say 100% yes, but no. clue what we were doing. All we knew is we're doing some cool stuff because we couldn't see the CGI. We didn't know what they were doing with the ghosts, because we would do one take as us, and then someone from ILM would come out with this round thing. I think it was a camera, and he'd go around in a circle where we shot and all that filmed. And but honestly, the first time I saw Johnny do Johnny was at Universal, and it was a scene with Kevin McNally with the pigs, when he throws the water on Gibbs, and then he wakes up, and then I'm looking at Johnny doing what he's doing. I'm like, holy cow, man, that's really cool. That's really really cool what he's doing. But it wasn't till the Super Bowl party with the Buccaneers and Raiders were playing. We had a party in the Caribbean, and we knew the trailer was going to play. And once we saw that trailer, we all got goosebumps. We were all screaming and yelling, giving high fives. And I happened to be the button on the trailer. And it was a thrilling moment for me and all of us. And from that day on, we knew we were part of something special.
That's fantastic. I can only imagine being there watching that trailer for the first time, and just like the goosebumps you guys had to have that's incredible.
We might have been a little drunk from the rum, but we were
Nothing wrong with
we
that.
we were celebrating. I mean, it's one of those special moments in my life that I always remember. And just remember us hugging, high fiving. It was like we won the Super Bowl, and just to look in everyone's face from, well, Gore already knew, and Martin already knew, one of the editors and camera guy. They knew what they were doing, and but just seeing the look on Jeffrey, Johnny, Zoe, Kira, the list goes on. It was so much fun.
And it's cool to think all these years later, you think of like Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, or Jeffrey Rush as Barbosa. Like, you can't picture anybody else in those roles. Like, they're generational roles, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're iconic, and it's kind of like you said, Encino Man has this like cult following. Pirates has the same thing. Because there's so many people that dress up like pirates. There's a whole subculture out there of pirates, which is really cool. But then you have the regular people, who don't dress up, and they come up to us and always say, "This movie made a difference in my life, or changed my life, or gave me a message that I was missing." And I don't know what that was, why it connected so much, but I think a lot has to do with just going after that dream, and that dream of Jack Sparrow having the black pearl, and the last line, "Take me to my horizon," and I think that connects with so many people.
Absolutely. So fast forwarding to some of your current work, you have a film called Trauma Therapy Psychosis, which will be coming out on September 1st. So talk to me about the experience of making that film.
Um, so originally I was in the original Trauma Therapy, and I'm good friends with the writers, Tom Lloyd, David, Joshua Lawrence, and we were sitting around one day. Hey, it'd be cool to do a film together, maybe improvisation, whatever. But they ended up writing the script, and they go, "Hey, we wrote a role for you called Victor." Now, for this one, Trauma Therapy Psychosis, originally I wasn't in the film. They shot it in Scotland. It's a very intense film, very in your face, and it's a standalone film. So you don't need to watch the first one to get what's going on in this one. But if you want to, please do. Because I can use some more residual checks. But but this film. So later on, David and Tom, after we're done with the cut, and they looked at it, they're like, "Hey, we want you to come back and reprise Victor." and we want you to do it with Tom Sizemore. I'm like, well, that's cool. I love Tom Sizemore. Black Hawk Down, Heat, Saving Private Ryan, and he's such an intense actor. I'm like, let's do it. So it was intense and very edgy, and I think people like this film because it's very well shot. It has a very 70 feels to the look of it, and it's a little bloody and very it's a psychological warfare.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing it, and I'm sure, with it being Tom Sizemore's last movie, um, adds a little something extra to it.
Yeah, it sucks that he's not here to see the film because he's really good in it, and our scene together doing the podcast, he was really good at pushing my buttons. I was good at pushing his buttons. We got into it, but it was very organic. So meaning we didn't know what was going to happen, but the director gave us the freedom to improvise, and he ran with it. I'm like, wow, you know what? I'm going to join the party, and we had a blast. We went at each other. We yelled at each other, but at the end, we complimented each other, said great work, gave each other a hug. Then afterwards, we went to Trails Tacos, had tacos, drank some rum. Well, I drank rum. I don't think he drank, but I don't remember. But I remember him having nice big steak bowl that Trejo makes, and it was really good.
That's fantastic. As we start to wrap up here, I did want to ask you, what's one piece of advice that you could give to an aspiring actor?
One piece of advice. What would I say? You're either all in or all out. So meaning, if you're gonna commit to acting, you got to commit 100%. You can't sit there and say, well, I'm going to touch the water, but I'm going to go over here and study to be a doctor or lawyer, and then, maybe be an actor, whatever. No, you got to be 100% committed because once you leave the biz, it's hard to get back in. It really is. I've had friends that have left the business and tried to get back in, and it's so hard. And another piece of advice is believe that you can do it and do the work, meaning really, really do the work. And when I say do the work, it's about learning the craft, but also learn about yourself because all characters come from you, and we have 50 million characters within us. It's just a matter of tapping into those characters. So, and don't be afraid to tap into it. Don't be afraid to travel to the dark side. Don't be afraid to look ugly. Don't be afraid to be pathetic because that's what makes a good actor. A good actor is living, not telling the story, but living the story.
Absolutely. Do you have a website or social media you'd like to plug so the listeners can follow you?
They can find me on Vince Lozano page on Instagram, Facebook, Vince Lozano page, and I have I think I have a website. I haven't been on it, but VinceLozano.com. And what else do I have? I'm on Twitter, but I don't remember my handle. But anyway, they can find me on Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, Vince, thank you so much for taking the time to have this chat. This was great.
Awesome. Thank you, man. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you again to Vince Lozano for that fantastic conversation. Be sure to follow him on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. And check out his latest film, Trauma Therapy Psychosis, which will be available September 1st on demand and on digital. For next week's podcast, we're going to be having another fascinating conversation with screenwriter, TV personality, executive producer, and filmmaker Serena DC about her documentary Beyond the Grave, which, as you could probably guess by the title, has to deal with the afterlife. And it's a really fascinating documentary, and can't wait for you guys to hear about it from one of the numerous people that made the documentary a reality. And then in 2 weeks' time, it will be the return of the top 5 list. I know it's been a bit since we've done a top 5, and I can't believe that we haven't done this top 5 list yet for the podcast. top 5 films from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if you're a Marvel fan, definitely come back in 2 weeks' time. And don't forget to submit your list. Be sure to follow me on Facebook to find out when the post goes live for you to drop your list in the comments. And speaking of social media, if you want to follow the show on social media, if you want to subscribe to the podcast, the YouTube channel, everything is in one location, linktree.com/DDiamondPodcast. Everything Derek Diamond Experience related is all in one simple location. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. So thank you again to Vince Lozano. I'm your host, Derek Diamond, and we'll see you guys back here next Monday for another awesome episode of the Derek Diamond Experience podcast.